The Aston Martin GT12 is a racer-inspired super sports car made in Britain that should get people like you and me very excited indeed. Using the already very fast V12 Vantage S as a donor, Aston has fitted wider tracks and bodywork, masses of front splitter and rear wing, and then squeezed 600 horsepower from the V12 to create this angry-looking device. The suspension is completely new, with adaptive damping working through 3 fixed settings. The rubber is now Michelin Pilot Supersport all-round, 265 at the front and 325 at the rear, and they've gone to town on the lightweight bits. The intakes are magnesium, the rear glass is perspex, the seats are carbon, as is the centre console and the door casings. The torque tube is now magnesium, as is the centre exit exhaust. Even allowing for the wider body, the GT12 is 100 kilograms lighter than a V12 Vantage, but it's still over 1500 kilograms.
Yes, they turned it into a racing car that I very much enjoyed, and yes, it's got lots of wings and enormous amounts of performance potential, but the GT12 is a road car, first and foremost. So let's drive it on the road before we go and do some sillier stuff later on. What's it like? Well, as you can probably hear behind me, it's a little on the noisy side. Fantastic noise. It's always with you. You can have it off for a little bit. There you go. That's the quiet mode, but the valve's still open when you give it some tap. Well, I prefer to leave it noisy because it's just damn cool, isn't it? What is it then on the road? It's a kind of super sports GTO version of the V12 Vantage S. It's got more power, more of everything really. It's much wider. You notice the width on the road. I mean, to house those 325 section rears, they've gone really wide on the track, so you notice it, and it does pick up some cambers, but, and I suspect not without the influence of a certain engineer who's arrived from Lotus, it has a lovely supple ride to it when you leave the dampers in soft, which I like. So it's a very usable car. I can imagine, with the exhaust in quiet, tumbling all the way down to the south of France quite happily in this. And people just gawp at it because it looks so damn good. Steering, hydraulically assisted, and reminds you of the ills of electric steering, even though Porsche seems to be getting to grips with the stuff now. This is just lovely. And I love the cabin. They've built this entirely new carbon centre console here and all this stuff, and it now houses the DBS controls in here, which are much more modern. Does it feel like £250,000 in here? You know what it does? There's a lot of carbon fibre, a lot of lovingly stitched Alcantara. It's just high quality and special feeling. How do we feel about the old-fangled single clutch gearbox thing? It's not brilliant, but it kind of works with the car. I think they've taken it to the point where it's as good as it can be, but a dual clutch is still better. I really do believe that, even though there is a weight saving with this. I suppose, as is often the case with these latest bewinged special edition cars, whether they're RSs or GTOs or Speciales or whatever, their outward aesthetics and their on-paper personality suggests that they're not road cars at all and that they're unusable and that really you just have to go to a track to use them, but that isn't the case with pretty much all of them, and the Aston is the same. This to me doesn't feel much more difficult to use on the road, bar the width and the noise, than a Vantage S. And it just feels so special and looks so special. What's it going to be like against the obvious Porsche? I don't know. We'll do that soon for you, but for now, yeah, I feel pretty damn good. I mean, come on. How can you not like that? Normally aspirated V12. I don't care what you do with turbochargers. You can make them very, very impressive. You can make them very, very fast. But the raw simplicity and, for want of a better word, emotion of this engine. And this is such a powerhouse, this thing, that it will marmalise even 325 section rears. That has to be a good thing. With the DSC set to the normal mode, the yellow light's on the whole time, even in hot weather in the dry, so run it in DSC track mode. That's the best way, I think, on the street. The torque, though, almost feels turbocharged. It pulls from about 2, it really does. And then between 6 and 7, it's just a question of pulling the paddle quick enough before it smashes into the limiter. It's not the sophisticated, will it ever stop revving V12 that Ferrari gives you in the FF and the F12, but it has a particular personality of its own, and the mid-range, whoa, it's massive, just massive. Well, ever since I first drove the racing version in Germany a few months ago, I've been waiting to drive this supposed street car. There's not much about it that makes me think it's a street car. Have you heard it? Wow! One of the best car noises ever. So what's this GT12 all about? Well, we've gone through the specification for you. Here's how it works on a track. We're at Little Landau. I've actually got the chassis in the softer of the damper modes because the bumps here, it seems to prefer that. Up to 7,000 RPM. Engine's angry. Brakes really good. Circuit's damp from earlier, but we've got enough grip. Huge 325 section rear tyre. Does give impressive traction, but you've got to get temperature into these big Michelins before they really work. Steering, direct, full of feel, really impressive. The motor works from zip, but it's got this kind of punch from about 3.5 through to 7. Feels like it wants to keep revving. The gearbox is that slightly peculiar single clutch thing that Aston developed. Do you know what? It has real personality, but it just can't match the latest dual clutches in terms of immediacy and smoothness. Is that a problem? It probably is. The shifts are quite quick, but as you can hear, there's still a kind of a hesitancy before you get that full shift down. It's pretty good around this bumpy circuit, I have to say, but it likes the softer mode. If it's too stiff, it starts to lose traction. The diff is better than the last V12 Vantage S that I drove. They've had to be quite cautious with the setup, I think, because the tyre at the rear is so wide, it's quite sensitive to cambers. But yeah, with that tight diff, just be on top of your game when you get the power down, because it's snappy like that. But great fun. A driver's car through and through. And the noise, that V12. Now this is the end of a generation of V12 Astons. It's a pretty cool celebration, I tell you. What happens if we do this and turn all the gubbins off? Come on, gubbins, go. And that says it's off. Off, I do believe, means off in the Aston world. Let's see. Oh, yes. Exciting car. These are fast corners. It doesn't like the last bit a lot and straightening the car back up again. It's quite spiky. Getting the throttle out of the throttle and bringing it back into line is a real challenge. But then I suppose a big V12 should be a challenge, shouldn't it? Yeah, okay. Proper car. Proper car. Proper thug of a pretty organic, very fast track car that makes one of the best noises I've heard. much. Wowzers.
Now, as you might know, Aston built a race version of this car. That's right, a race version of the road version of the race car. And we entered it at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. But this is one of the 100 road cars that will be sold for £250,000 each and are all sold.